Hello, I'm Michael Buerk. Welcome to a brand new series of royal recipes. This time, we're at Westonbirt House, formerly a grand country house, now a boarding school, which has played host to royal visitors for over 100 years. In this series, we're delving even further back in time to reveal over 600 years of royal food heritage. You play Anne Boleyn, and I will play Henry VIII.
And we've been busy unlocking the secrets of Britain's great food archives, discovering rare and unseen recipes that have been royal favourites through the ages. From the earliest royal cookbook in 1390...
It's so precious, so special that I'm not allowed to touch it.
...to Tudor treats from the court of Henry VIII.
I can't wait for this. 1, 2, 3.
We'll be exploring the great culinary traditions enjoyed by the royal family, from the grand to the groundbreaking, as well as the surprisingly simple.
I did think that was going to be a disaster.
As we hear from a host of royal chefs.
Prince Philip would walk past or pop his head in and say, "What's for dinner? What are we having?" Oh yeah, it's not just a normal kitchen.
And meet the people who provide for the royal table.
It's OK for the Queen, it's OK for everyone.
Welcome to Royal Recipes.
It's all about the youngsters in today's programme, the young royals. The current crop has certainly presented a rather different face of royalty to the world than their parents and grandparents. And the appetite for royal gossip means their every move is scrutinised. This time on Royal Recipes, Anna Haugh puts her spin on some royal chutney. Oh, it looks like a dead mouse, doesn't it? Chef Paul Ainsworth, cooking at home, is characteristically modest.
I'm putting it out there. I think that'll be the best rice pudding you've ever tasted and ever made.
And one royal pudding proves a tricky customer.
Oh!
We're in the Italian gardens for a spot of barbecuing on today's royal recipes. And with me is executive chef Anna Haugh. Now, this looks different.
I'm going to make paella, but I'm going to make it on the barbecue.
Paella. How do you... Now, you worked in a posh, very posh Spanish kitchen, didn't you? So how you... Paella.
That's perfect.
Okay.
You've got it down there.
OK, so tell us what it is.
It's a rice-based fish dish with a little bit of chicken in it, traditionally. But when you create a dish like this on the barbecue, you will need a barbecue with a lid, FYI.
OK.
OK, so I've already been colouring my chicken off here. So I'm just going to push that to the side as I start to add the other ingredients.
You get those other ingredients in. And this is a royal recipe because, we're told, Prince William used to cook it in home economics class at Eton.
Oh.
But his particular version was described as like another kind of Eton mess. So see if you can do better.
Oh, God,
so what are you doing?
I'll try.
What's that?
This is a chorizo.
Chorizo, that's kind of Spanish sausage, yeah?
That's right, yeah. That colour will start to bleed out.
It's a beautiful colour, isn't it?
Yeah,
lovely, reddish brown.
It gives it a lovely kind of depth of flavour.
There are a lot of ingredients in this dish, aren't there?
There are a lot of ingredients. They're all there for a specific reason, though. It is quite a simple dish. You just add everything in, leave it for 10 to 15 minutes, and before you know it, you've got a main course done.
What next?
OK, next is going to be our onion. OK, I'm going to put a little pinch of salt in here just while it's starting, get the flavour into it.
Now, what's the trick with this dish? What would you say was the most important thing to get right?
Your temperature is really important. You don't want it on too high of a heat because what you'll do is that you'll boil off all your liquid and your rice won't be cooked. It needs to be at the right temperature so that the rice has enough time to absorb all your liquid. You want it to essentially cook on a medium heat. That's probably the best way to describe the heat you would cook this at. Next, we're going to add in our tomatoes.
Yep.
They're beautiful. These will add a nice sweetness, little bit of acidity to our dish.
It's rather fun to think of the pupils at Eton knocking up paella in their home economics lesson.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Prince Harry went to Eton as well, didn't he?
He did, yeah.
Well, actually, you know, I mean, Eton's very close to Windsor, isn't it? It's kind of local comp for royals, wouldn't you
Yeah,
say?
nice and convenient for them. Okay, next is going to be our spice. This is just paprika.
More colour, more colour.
And
Oh,
next we're going to add in the rice.
Wait a minute, this doesn't look like ordinary rice.
This is no ordinary rice.
No, of course
This
it
is
wouldn't.
bomba rice.
Anna's rice. Bomba. Bomba.
Yeah, it's a short grain rice. It's similar to risotto.
And what
Perfect for
special
paella.
qualities does that have that makes you use it for this and for risotto?
Well, you want to be able to cook it slowly and the starch to kind of come out of it gently. Now, you don't want to stir. Once we add the liquid, you don't want to stir it like you would a risotto where you really do create a creamy sauce. Okay, I think we're good to get our stock in there now.
A fish stock? A fish and chicken stock?
Yeah, and I love the idea.
As simple as that?
Yeah, as simple as that. I like the idea of not wasting anything.
You are big on waste, aren't you?
Yes, I don't like it. Okay, I'm just going to give it one little stir to make sure that it's kind of evenly placed. And then this should cook for about maybe 10 to 15 minutes.
With the lid on or off?
Lid off. We're only going to put the lid on just to finish it off. So while we're waiting for that to cook, I'm going to impress you with my knife skills.
Again, I'm always impressed with your knife skills.
Okay, well, I'm just going to chop some parsley, which will go on top. And this can be quite rough. I think if you're going to cook parsley, you don't want to have it chopped too fine because it'll
Well, you're
shrink.
almost tearing it rather than chopping it.
Oh, well,
aren't
I'm
you?
going to chop it afterwards, just removing the stalks. Stuff like this can be very nice if you keep it for a stock or a base of a sauce. There's a lot of flavours in there, but I'm just using the leaves to garnish. So you just want to roughly chop this. You don't want it to be too small. And then I'm going to chop the beautiful roasted red peppers. So you could just place them over your open gas flame, your cooker at home. Just keep turning it and turning it.
Yep.
And then once it's black all over, you can run it under the tap to rinse it off or rub it off with cloth. And it really adds to the paella. It's a lovely vegetable element.
And it looks good, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Really bright red colour.
I'm just going to do some lemon wedges, and this gives you the, as you portion your paella, people have the choice whether to add lemon or not to add lemon. Because
Do you?
I do, yeah, because I think acidity is really important with the kind of lovely fattiness of the chorizo and the spice.
You need something to cut through it a bit.
Yeah, that's it.
Don't look now, Anna, but it's bubbling away.
Oh.
It looks like a volcano.
It's looking pretty good. We're going to add our peppers
hot,
now.
hot. Peppers first.
Peppers
And last,
first.
the prawns. Good. There's a real theme of red in this dish, isn't there?
Yeah.
Look at that.
Well, the Spanish love colour. Everything
Yeah.
about them is about colour, isn't it? So I'm going to pop the lid on,
This is where the lid goes on.
just for about maybe 2 minutes.
Now, tell me about the science of all this, then. Why the lid now?
Well, we're going to get a little bit of smoky flavour into it now because we're
Yeah.
trapping the smoke into it.
Yeah.
And also the heat is going to be kind of pushed down on
Yeah.
top, so it will just cook the prawns so that they're delicately cooked.
Why do you think Prince William made a complete mess of this?
He's
An
probably not.
eaten mess of this?
He's probably not used to cooking for himself, surely.
Actually, the talk was that the reason home economics was so popular was that there was a rather attractive home economics teacher.
I can imagine. Okay, I'll have a little sneaky peek now.
Yep. Oh.
Yes.
Oh, isn't that lovely? It
Okay.
looks sensational, doesn't it?
Good to go.
Yeah. Move this out of your way.
Thank you. And then we're just going to finish it with our lemon wedges.
That actually makes it look fantastic, doesn't it? You need a bit of variety with the sort of wonderful redness of the paella itself. And some green and some... Look at that! Brilliant.
Time to
well
check in.
done, chef. OK, let's have some.
Okay, here you go.
OK? You're going to eat it straight
go
out of the
first.
dish?
You go first, straight out of the dish.
I've been terribly keen on one of these lovely, lovely prawns. One. Hot, though. Hot. Straight off the fire. Oh, but lovely. The rice and the spices and everything. Real taste of Spain. And it's brilliant. Prince William, eat your heart out. A fiery, colourful version of a princely paella. While Prince William may not be the world's best cook, he and his brother Prince Harry have enjoyed the best food that the world has to offer all their lives. And for one royal chef, a trip to Iceland offered up a pudding that became a favourite of the young royals.
Go on in.
Des Sweeney used to work in the kitchens at a number of royal residences. He recalls a pudding that became much loved by the royal grandchildren.
So today we're making crepes, Islandaise, which is basically it's a pancake filled with raspberry jam, freshly whipped cream, and a bit of raspberry coulis.
Des whisks up a rich batter made with 3 eggs, a pint of milk, plain flour, and a touch of sugar. The dish was inspired by a trip away with the royals.
This originally came from Iceland. The Queen and Prince Philip went on a state visit to Iceland. We was on Royal Yacht Britannia for 3 days. This is a dish they were given. Prince Philip really, really enjoyed it. And so it sort of got transferred back to Balmoral. And then slowly over the years, it got passed down the line to all the younger ones because it was a nice, simple, easy dessert. And, you know, the young kids loved it. In Scotland, Balmoral, you know, the family around all the time, and they would just walk into the kitchen and go, oh, well, what's for dinner, what we're having, and pinch the odd biscuit or the odd piece of cake as they're walking past.
His time as a chef in the royal kitchens not only gave Des this privileged view, but he was also, as is the royal tradition, granted a service medal.
I received a medal for a state visit, which was very nice. And there's a letter. I have the honour to inform you that the Queen has been graciously pleased to grant you to restricted permission to wear the insignia of the President's Medal, which should be conferred upon you by the President of the Republic of Iceland. And this is the medal I was presented with, which entitles you to wear it for national state visits. So I'm very pleased, very proud of that moment.
Once it's rested, the batter is ready to cook.
Okay, so we're making the pancakes or crepes. Get your oil really nice and hot. That's just a standard cooking oil. And just covering the bottom of the pan. So you don't want it really smoking, but you do want it hot. So it just sizzles as you pour it in. The secret is to let them settle down. And also having a really good crepe pan. I've always loved chefing, and I never found it difficult. I never found it to be a real sort of job, really, such as it all sort of made sense. So you slide them onto an upside-down plate. That way, they settle down and relax, going downwards rather than curling up and going all dry and crispy around the edge. I think it was my first year at the palace and got put on the staff pancake day, and it was involved like making 300 pancakes for the staff. I think it was like 4 or 5 hours just making pancakes, literally nothing else. But it was quite interesting. Everyone seemed to avoid me. They obviously knew what was going on, and just everyone sort of like complete body swerve of that corner. It was obviously like the new boy induction thing. Yes, one of many. Royal chef was just really interesting. Daunting to begin with. You think, oh my God, this is like the Queen's lunch. It's quite nerve-wracking. But after a while, you know, it just becomes the day-to-day. So what we're going to do now, pancakes are made. Roll them in sugar, spread some raspberry jam on it, whipped cream, fold them over, some fresh raspberries, a nice bit of raspberry coulis. And basically that is it. That's what I'm saying, it's a real nice, easy dessert. A nice bit of whipped cream. Bit of a naughty one. But nice if you've got a sweet tooth. From there you fold it over once, fold it over twice. Yeah, it's quite decadent, isn't it, really? Then we're just going to finish it with a few raspberries and a bit of raspberry coulis. Tell me which royal wouldn't like that. Crepes, Islandaise.
I suppose if you're born into the royal family, you kind of grow up with an understanding of your role and what's expected. But it must be different, mustn't it, if you kind of marry into the royal family? I mean, for instance, what would you actually take the Queen and the royal family at Christmas? Kate Middleton solved that problem on the first Christmas that she spent with the royal family at Sandringham. She took a pot of her family's chutney. So what are you going to do?
Well, I'm going to make a batch of chutney today that is actually quite similar to the chutney that Kate Middleton took to the Queen that day.
Not quite the same,
No.
but similar.
Similar.
OK. What kind of apples are you using?
These are
cookers,
Bramley.
aren't they?
Yeah,
Bramleys?
Yeah,
Loads
Bramley
of flavour?
apples.
But
loads of flavour.
not very sweet.
Not very sweet, which is good because you want to be able to add a lot of sugar into your chutney because it's the sugar that helps preserve it. The sugar, the spices and the vinegar help preserve it.
Quintessential English apple, isn't it?
Yes.
And we tend to think of chutney as an English dish, but
Yes.
But I think actually it's Indian, isn't it?
Oh,
Originally,
yes,
yeah,
I think
made
you
of
could be right.
spices and fruit in India, and I think originally called chutney.
But yeah, I think chutneys are just such a wonderful thing to have in your cupboard at home because it's not just going to go with delicious picnics and, you know, with ham and cheeses. You can also add a spoonful of chutney into a curry mix or into a stew, and it will add a bit of depth of flavour, which is really quite special.
You can use them on almost anything, can't you?
Yeah, yeah.
And the Queen, very graciously, I would have said, had it served up with the turkey
Well, that must have been quite special.
on Christmas Day.
I would
think,
say
you know,
that's quite
a rather
special.
Nice gesture, don't you think?
Yeah, in it goes. Everything will
Fingers.
go in together.
Tell me about marrows.
I wouldn't be a big fan of marrow.
Why? There's not much flavour in them.
It's not
it's
much
all water, isn't it?
flavour. It's all water. Where I really enjoy a courgette. Doesn't even smell like a courgette. But
No, it doesn't really.
for
Just
what we're
smells-
doing today, it is so perfect.
Why?
Because when you look at the other ingredients, so you have vinegar, which is quite dominant, you've got spices,
Yeah.
which are quite strong, and then you have dates, which really have a very strong flavour, beautiful flavour. But you can't just have date, the only ingredient in your chutney, because it would just be too overpowering. So something like a marrow just marries up well and allows the date to
What
take...
you're saying, Anna, is that you like marrows because it's got no flavour at all.
You might say no personality. I think it's why they might have paired us up like
What do you mean?
date and marrows.
I'll see you afterwards. You must have enough marrow by now.
I think you're right. Okay, so that just goes in on top, and next is our onions.
Oh, yes, now you're talking. Now you're getting
Yeah.
down to the real stuff.
That's it. And our dried fruit, beautiful chopped dates.
Big, juicy
gorgeous,
raisins.
yeah, beautiful plump raisins.
And dates. All the flavour going in now.
Some salt and some ginger.
But ginger is a nice idea, isn't it?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Ginger and date. Marriage made in heaven. Now our sugar's going to go in.
That's an enormous amount of sugar, isn't it?
It is, yes.
It's a really
full
sweet
pot.
thing, is it,
This is
chutney?
a full pot of chutney.
Certainly is. There's more than one jam jar in that bucket there, isn't there?
Yeah.
And this is vinegar.
This is
so you've
gonna
got
be
the
vinegar.
sweetness, now you've got the sharpness.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, look at that. Actually, it looks a bit of a mess.
Thank you, Michael. That was
No, but
what I
you
was
know what I
going for.
mean.
And the last thing, I'm going to
Yep.
need your help with this, actually.
Ah,
Michael.
yes, yes, yes. Now, what's this?
It's just a lovely selection of different spices that go very well in a chutney. So you have some allspice and you have some coriander seed, some dried chili, because I do think a little bit of kind of kick in the chutney can be so delicious.
Yep.
Some peppercorns, and I think we have a little bit of fennel seed as well in
Oh,
there.
that
so
looks wonderful. But why are you putting it in a bag and not just... Shall I hold it together?
Yes,
and
that
you...
would be great.
Because
Well,
you're going to tie it up,
yeah,
aren't you?
so it means that we can just take it out and you don't get like a nasty mouthful of anything surprising when you're eating your chutney. Just going to give this a little stir.
So you're going to bury that in the...
Yes, I'm going to bury it to the bottom.
Gosh, there's an awful lot in there, isn't there?
It is, but it'll cook down and shrink in size quite a bit.
And this is a long job, isn't it?
This is a long
Once
job.
you've tossed it all in there.
Yeah, but it's totally worth it because, I mean, when something is jarred or canned, it should stay good for up to a year at least. But you shouldn't eat it before 3 months, ideally. because
Just to let
that's-
the spices permeate through the stuff and generally mellow.
Yeah, absolutely.
That would make it perfect for Christmas, wouldn't it? Because it's mostly harvest fruits.
Yeah.
3 months on, Christmas. Bingo.
So I want to bring it up to the boil on the highest heat you can, and then it goes down to a nice low simmer. And you just want to...
Any danger of burning it?
Well, yeah, you do need to keep an eye on it. Stir it every so often. That would be the sugar content.
Yeah.
But yeah, you just keep giving it a stir every now and again and it should be fine. Now,
Right.
earlier on I did make this chutney so you don't have to wait 2 hours, Michael.
I'm glad about that.
And we're actually going to go through the jarring process now, which is really important. You need to make sure that your jars are hot and sterilised. So in a pan of water, you would simmer your jars and your lids, and that you need to make sure that your mix is hot as well when it's going into the jars. You're trying to keep the temperature the whole time.
Oh, it looks like a dead mouse, doesn't it? Ooh. We'd better be clear, that's the spices, isn't it? You take notes.
There's no dead mice in here.
OK.
No secret
well, so
ingredients.
You say. So you say. I didn't watch you doing this bit.
So I'm spooning in the chutney mix into the jars.
We don't really know whether the Queen enjoyed the chutney. I'm sure she probably said she did.
I wouldn't imagine that the Queen would put it on the dinner table if she didn't think it was going to be a nice...
You think she tried it beforehand?
Yes, I have to say she did a sneaky spoonful out the back.
Yeah.
Passes the test.
Absolutely.
On the table, please, guys.
Absolutely. Yep,
Perhaps
the
not
marriage
those
can go
words.
ahead, she probably said. The chutney is OK. That's the test.
OK, so
they're
just
hot,
be careful
aren't they,
that the
so-
jars are
yeah.
hot. OK.
There we go. Really tight?
Okay, nice and tight. OK. So, yeah, 3 months, Michael, and then you can try them.
Now, surely, 3 months ago, you did this. So you can now say, here's one I prepared earlier.
And so, to try the chutney, I thought it would be nice if we had some lovely cheeses and some ham.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
This is really good. You need a kind of pint of cider or something with this, don't you?
Yeah.
That looks terrific. Some ham?
Okay, yeah.
And we've got some bread here,
Yeah.
which obviously is a perfect combination. Ah, now that's how you do it, is it? You put the chutney on the bread first,
Yes, watch and learn.
as a kind of spread. Oh, watch and learn, yeah. Bit of cheese first, and then I'm going to try some ham. That's good.
It's really good. It goes so well with the cheese.
Yep.
Without the marrow, I don't believe it would have the same body.
Well, that gives it substance, doesn't it? And body and so on. But it's turned, you know, a rather ordinary vegetable into something spicy and delicious that brings out the best in, you know, plain and ordinary food, makes them magical.
A rich, fruity accompaniment to a right royal Christmas feast.
Someone else who married into the royal family was the Queen Mother. She was born Elizabeth Bowes-Lyon in 1900. When she was 4 years old, her father inherited the earldom of Strathmore and Kinghorn, and with it, Glamis Castle, just north of Dundee.
The Queen Mother's childhood home is one of the most romantic castles in Scotland. It's also a place where she spent happy days with her own children. Dr. Matt Green went to explore.
A tradition started with the Queen Mother. Glamis has long since been a favourite for the young royals to spend their holidays, particularly in the summer.
Glamis archivist Ingrid Thompson has studied the life of the young Elizabeth Bowes-Lyon.
Do we know what she was like as a little
Well,
girl?
she was quite a mischievous little girl, very lively.
Right.
Lots of stories of her and her younger brother David throwing water onto guests from the ramparts, cold water.
From the ramparts?
Yes.
So it's better than boiling oil,
Yes,
I suppose.
yes. And also, actually, the dining room was used as a convalescent hospital in the First World War, and she also played tricks on some of the soldiers. One of them recounts her leading him into a dark, dimly lit corridor, and he walked into a stuffed bear with his crutch, and she thought this was hilarious.
Oh, well, so she wasn't a sort of meek kind of
No, not at all. But she was
child.
very well liked. People, you know, have fond memories of her.
So do we have any records of what they may have eaten?
Yes, we do, actually, and we've got some records from the archives just over here, if you want to come here. We have various menus and photographs.
Who were these people?
These were the Queen Mother's grandparents, the 13th Earl and
So
Countess.
they're sort of sitting...
So this was for their golden wedding.
Oh, OK, right. And did the Golden Wedding Supper, did that take place in here?
No, actually 500 people attended.
500, okay. That would be a bit of a squeeze to get 500 in here.
But we do have the menu here of what they ate. And it shows that game was a key part of the diet as well. Of course, this is a hunting estate,
as you'd expect,
so you would expect that.
And there's a big range of, I mean, rabbit pies, tongues,
yes. And galantines. That was a cold dish of white meat or fish, which was deboned, cooked, and pressed.
Right.
So,
looks like it would have been quite the feast.
yes, absolutely.
Glamis played host to many a fine banquet during the Queen Mother's childhood. But the biggest event of her life came later, when on the 26th of April 1923, she married Prince Albert, Duke of York. Tommy Baxter is the castle manager.
This is Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother's bedroom. It was given to her in 1923 when she married Albert, later, of course, to become George VI.
One's attention is immediately drawn to two things, really. But first of all, this cot. Whose cot is that?
Well, this was made specifically for the use of the Queen as a baby and a small child when she visited her grandparents here at Glamis.
So just to clarify, the present-day Queen has slept in this cot.
Absolutely.
As a child?
Yes, and the cot left here in 1947 and was returned a few years ago. It had been used by Prince Charles as a baby.
I've seen more royal babies than most cots. And tell me about this amazing rocking horse.
Well,
whose is that?
This was a toy of the present Queen's. And we have a wonderful photograph of her actually sitting on the horse with her grandmother holding her on. I'd like to think this is where she got a love of horses. It started here at Glamis.
The young Princess Elizabeth spent many summers here, captured for posterity in the family album.
Glamis must have been such fun.
Yeah, it looks like it. It's not too sort of formal, is it?
Yeah, she often has said that some of her happiest childhood memories were actually here visiting her grandparents. I love this one because all of the 14th Earl and Countess's grandchildren, from the Master of Glamis right down to the little baby at the bottom, is Princess Margaret, Elizabeth.
That's Princess Margaret.
Here's the Queen. So, as the family goes, she looks like quite a junior member of the family.
She does, yeah, ironically. And what do we have here?
Well, this is the visitor book that was kept by the family. And here, the young Elizabeth, at the age of 5, signs in very bold letters, Lilibet.
That was her nickname.
That was her pet name. Now, we then turn a few pages, 1934, she's a bit older, and then this is the biggest change of all. You go over near the back of the book, and here we are, 1953, this is coronation year, and here at the top of the page, Elizabeth R.
So from Lilibet to Elizabeth.
Elizabeth R.
The reigning monarch. How amazing, her entire life in signatures.
In signatures in this book.
Evolution for her visits to Glamis.
We're very proud of this. We keep it very safely under lock and key.
Glamis Castle, a favourite summer getaway for generations of young royals.
I think things have changed for royal children over time, because in the past, I suppose it's a strange life, isn't it? They haven't had great reputation as wonderful parents. Queen Victoria, she had 9 children, you know. But she described herself, I think, as not an admirer of babies generally.
Why would she have 9 children if she didn't like babies?
Well, accident or design, I think probably accident. But, I mean, one of her biographers described her and her husband, Prince Albert, as pretty awful parents. I think our present Queen, you know, her parents were away on royal tours for month after month. Diana, I think, broke that tradition a bit, didn't she?
Yeah.
I mean, she came running back from a much shorter royal trip and would
Scoop
hug her children. In fact, I think Prince William was the first of the royals, I think, to be sent to nursery rather than being tutored privately in the palace.
Little children want to play with other little children.
Yeah, a little bit of ordinariness, in their lives. Despite changes in the ways that the royals parent their children, there are some traditions which survive down the generations. Royal chefs have been serving up classic nursery food since time immemorial.
At his home in Cornwall, our very own Paul Ainsworth has been putting his spin on a royal favourite.
Okay, so today we're going to be making rice pudding. So what I've got here is a nice large pan, and we're going to start off with 500 grams of Cornish cream and 500 grams of Cornish milk. What I absolutely love about the royals is they're massive ambassadors of everything British, and I think this dessert is a proper British dessert. I know Prince William and Prince Harry love it, and like everyone else, they love it with a big dollop of strawberry or raspberry jam.
To flavour the milk and cream, Paul scrapes vanilla from 2 pods and adds it to the pan.
Now, instantly, before we've even got the rice in here, the smell is of like when you were just a young lad and your mum was making you a cup of hot milk before bed. It's just that lovely, malty, vanilla-y, creamy smell. It's just delicious. Now we're going to add our rice. And we've got 180 grams here of pudding rice. What's great about this, it goes nowhere near the oven. We're just going to cook this on the stovetop. And every so often, just keep stirring so that rice does not stick to the bottom of the pan. So turn our heat down a little bit, and now just look at that, like that vanilla, that cream, that milk, the smell is incredible. And now we're gonna come on to our jam. Gonna make it with a difference, we're gonna use blueberries. So what we have here is some creme de cassis, which is a blackcurrant liqueur. That goes into the pan quite like so. We're gonna add in a little bit of demerara sugar, and we're just going to let those dissolve nicely in the pan. So this is an adult's version. We are going to burn the alcohol off just to be left with that lovely blackcurrant flavour, which goes so well with the blueberries. But this is my little twist on it. We're going to take some time. We're just going to rub that between our hands, get that lovely smell of the oils coming out the thyme. We're going to add a little bit more vanilla. And in there, you've just got this heady blackcurrant flavour, thyme, vanilla, absolutely delicious. Now we're going to take our blueberries. They are so full of flavour, nice and soft, and will really break down in the pan. And straight away, look at that. They're like glistening jewels. You can see it starting to thicken. And when you're cooking fast like this, you're keeping the flavours in there really fresh.
While the jam bubbles away, Paul makes a start on the custard, which will be added to the rice pudding.
To get that sweetness in there and that beautiful richness, we're going to take some sugar and we're going to take some beautiful Cornish eggs. I mean, look at that. Absolutely gorgeous, rich, so orange, it hurts your eyes. It's absolutely amazing.
He adds the yolks of 12 eggs to 160 grams of caster sugar and whisks.
Now we're going to get our rice pudding back onto the heat, and we're just going to fold this egg yolk and sugar mixture through our rice. We're now turning the heat up a bit as well, and we're just going to cook this gently until our egg yolk is basically cooked. The colour is just absolutely stunning. I remember my dad kind of making semolina puddings and rice puddings, and I kind of grew up in a bed and breakfast, so that we were always cooking these old-fashioned desserts, which are now kind of great staple British desserts. So that's our rice pudding. I'm putting it out there. I think that'll be the best rice pudding you've ever tasted and ever made. You'll be proper proud of yourself for that. Right, we're gonna move up back over to our blueberry compote. And all we're gonna do, these things like the thyme, they've done their job. Gonna spoon out our vanilla. Okay, give it a nice little stir. Now we're gonna add some more blueberries. They're giving us a wonderful texture. Now one thing's missing, and it's that, the lemon. That's gonna give us wonderful acidity. Moment of truth. Yes, absolutely delicious. Citrusy, jammy, texture coming from those blueberries we folded in last minute. So we're gonna take our rice pudding, give it one final stir. Do not serve it hot. We want to serve it just warm. And what you've got here is just no stodge, just beautifully light, believe it or not, and just lovely and creamy. Now we come to our jam, and then we're just gonna take that, and just like any good rice pudding, just a dollop of that in the middle. Look at that. beautiful rice pudding, blueberry jam, proper royal recipe.
Sweet tooth certainly seems to run in the royal family, doesn't it, Anna? What are you going to be cooking up for us now?
Well, I'm going to make cinnamon biscuits with strawberry a la cardinal.
These are the biscuits that were served at the christening of Henry VIII's longed-for son and heir, Edward. And when he was born, there was great national rejoicing, and he was christened 3 days after the birth. And they served cinnamon biscuits. The cinnamon biscuits you're going to do now. So
That's right.
How do you do it?
Okay,
What
so
happens?
this is a biscuit like no other. I've never made a biscuit like this before, so I'm very excited and quite lucky to have learned this recipe. So I've beurre noisette here, which is like a kind of burnt butter. I'm going to pour this into the pan now, and then I'm going to add my sugar and the syrup.
Now, sugar would have been extraordinarily valuable in Henry VIII's time, wouldn't
Absolutely, yeah. Only for the rich.
it? Only for the rich, but nothing but the best for the great celebrations of the christening of Edward. This one son, born to Jane Seymour, I think, wasn't it? The third wife?
That's
The
right.
one that replaced Anne Boleyn.
So I just need to bring this up to temperature so it's kind of bubbling. And now I think...
That's
that
rich and
looks-
sweet.
That looks about right. I think I'm going to add in my flour now.
Mm-hmm.
I've never made a biscuit like this before, ever.
Now, why is it so different?
Well, biscuits, it's just about kind of creating this cold ball of dough that you rest in the fridge, and everything about this is literally the opposite. So you're melting your butter, and then you're cooking your flour in the pan to create this kind of dough. It's just like nothing else I've ever made. Okay, this is nearly mixed through, and then I'm going to add the last two ingredients,
The cinnamon.
and your salt.
He was so pleased to have this son. There were national celebrations. There was free food and wine for the populace.
I wonder
they
how his
put-
sisters felt.
Well, yes, you wonder how his mother felt. Well, his mother didn't last very long, did she,
Oh.
Jane Seymour? She actually got out of bed, I think, for the christening, but she didn't survive very much longer. I think she died very shortly afterwards.
It's a sad
rather-
story for a celebratory cookie. Okay, so I'm going to take this out and I'm going to try to roll it into a ball.
Gosh, it smells good too, doesn't it?
It does smell good. I'll bring it together. Now, this is super hot.
Oh, yeah, don't burn yourself.
It's like kneading lava. Okay, so I'm going to take up some paper here, place our tray there.
Okay. So, why?
Okay, so this is quite a delicate mix, and by rolling it in between two sheets of greaseproof paper, it means that it doesn't stick to the rolling pin, and that we can then kind of create a nice biscuit. So sometimes it might take a little bit of time just to kind of work the pastry together.
Oh, now that looks really nice. How thin are you going to make them?
We're almost there, just a little bit thinner. So to be precise, probably 1/3 of a centimetre. Not too chunky.
Oh, that looks
I
good.
think that looks pretty good. Now we're going to cut them.
There we go. Oh, they're lovely little, you know, tiny little medallion-type biscuits.
Hey, if you hold this tray, that would be very helpful.
How lovely. There we go.
Okay, so I reckon we pop them in the oven.
Okay.
180 degrees.
For how long?
8 to 10 minutes.
Okay. It's sad, isn't it, Anna? All that celebration, but he didn't have a long life, did he?
Oh, it's very sad.
He became king at 9, I think, when Henry died. But he himself died when he was 15. But anyway, they were happy for that one day. Now, what are you going to do with the biscuits?
Well, I'm going to make a cardinal's hat out of strawberries.
Now, this is strawberries cardinal. This was a favourite of the present Queen's father, George VI. His sort of head chef, whose name was René Roussin.
Oh, what a name.
Yeah. And this was one of his fraise cardinal.
And what's so lovely about the recipe is that you've got your beautiful fresh strawberries.
What are you doing?
I'm going to cut the tops off.
Why?
Because it's going to be the base, and then we're going to build up the base.
You're going to build a tower, are you?
Yes.
Should I start making a base with them, or...?
I'm not sure I'm going to trust you with my technique.
That's very hurtful, Anna. Very hurtful.
You can help me brush the raspberry sauce.
That sounds a very menial job to me.
It's so important. It's the glue. It's the glue.
I fancy a bit of construction here.
Okay, so let's see. Do we think that would be a base?
I think we could.
Perhaps pop them on the plate then?
Okay, in that sort of...
Yeah.
Here we go. There we are. There. Is that enough of a base, or
yeah,
or
that
wider?
sounds good.
Okay.
No, that sounds good. And I'd say I'll start off and you can continue.
Now, what's this? This is
a raspberry sauce, and I think this is what makes it quite actually interesting.
That's quite good. Strawberries with a raspberry sauce.
Yeah. So I would pop them in between the
Yeah. I was going to do that. Yeah. Sound engineering principles, I'd say. There we go. Oh, this is not easy.
We can do it, Michael. We can do this. Another brush of your raspberry sauce.
All right. We'll try not to make a mess with these.
This is looking pretty good. We make a great team.
We do.
If you want to continue stacking them, I'm just going to run and check our biscuits.
Okay, yeah, it must be 8 minutes now. How do they look?
Oh, they're perfect. They're done.
Yeah. I'm nearly there.
Okay. I can't
Don't want
believe...
to knock the whole thing over.
Oh, I will never forgive you, Michael.
I know.
Okay.
There we are. Don't breathe.
Okay.
Nobody move. They look good, don't they? I'll tidy up around here. Shall I get rid of that there?
I'm just going to dust them with some icing sugar.
Yeah.
I think they could do it a little bit more sweetness.
And I think we ought to bring the biscuits to the CARDINAL,
Yes,
don't you?
I think that's a great idea.
Not the other way around.
No.
Don't just taste one of these.
Oh, yes.
Be careful now. I saw those strawberries tremble.
I'm trembling.
Presentation, isn't it, cooking?
Yeah.
2 more to go?
2 more to go.
Shall I get rid of this?
Perfect, it's hot. My steely hands.
Yeah.
It's hot.
Let me take it out of the way. There we go.
Thank you.
It does look great,
Wow.
doesn't it?
There we have it, our cinnamon biscuits with strawberries a la Cardinal.
Oh, beautifully crisp. Wonderfully sweet. And I just love that cinnamon flavour.
And a little hint of salt there is just delicious in it.
Yeah. Oh, can I have a strawberry with it?
No, you have to take it from the middle.
You really are a show-off.
We could play strawberry Jenga.
You did it.
Yeah,
Let's have a
your
go.
turn. Oh!
That's really nice. 2 royal recipes, 400 more years apart. Perfect. Join us next time for more royal recipes.